straight to Carl with his presentation. And the floor is yours, Carl. Thank you for your message.
Hi, it's a pleasure to be here. So yeah, I appreciate the opportunity and the rejuggling of the schedule. I'm gonna share my screen here. So as was mentioned, my name is Carl Dietrich. I'm the founder and CEO of JumpAero. Uh, JumpAero is developing an eVTOL specifically for rapid response missions to help first responders get to the scene of rural emergencies as fast as possible. Um, it turns out that, and I'm going to be presenting data that's mostly from the United States because that's where we have the access to the best specific data. But in the United States, the average emergency response time in rural areas is about 14 and a half minutes. It's about twice as long as what it is in urban or suburban areas. And that 7 minute difference, it doesn't sound like very much, but it can have a huge impact on patient outcomes. For example, in a case of cardiac arrest or pulmonary issues, stroke, severe trauma, car crashes, things like that, if oxygenated blood stops getting to your brain, you're on the clock. And within the first few minutes, you're going to lose consciousness. If you can get oxygen restored to your brain within the first 7 to 10 minutes, you've got a shot. Beyond 10 minutes, we're talking about coma, brain damage, and by the time you're out at 15 minutes, survival is nearly impossible. So, what we have right now in the United States, in arguably a first world country, we have a situation where the average response time in rural areas is one where you're going to die if you have a cardiac arrest and you don't have somebody there who knows what they're doing and can reestablish the flow of oxygen to your brain. Um, with eVTOL technology, we can change that. We can bring emergency response times on par to what we have in cities. And that's the opportunity that we saw at JumpAero back in 2019 when we got the company, when we founded the company, is this opportunity to shave just a few very critical minutes off of rural response times and help save a lot of lives. Um, the data is pretty astounding when you dig into it. These are just four time critical emergency cases: stroke, heart disease, respiratory failure, and then just severe trauma or injury. In these cases, and these data compare percent deaths preventable for rural areas and then in metropolitan areas. So, and you can see across the board for all of these cases, you've got double-digit percentage differences in percent preventable deaths for all of these time critical emergencies across the board between rural and metropolitan areas. So just that difference from 14 and a half minutes down to about 7 minutes response time means a huge, huge number of lives saved. In fact, we dug into the numbers and we've made some estimates, and we believe that just in the US, we're talking about 67,000 lives per year. If we look globally, because there is so much of a larger rural population across the world, particularly in developing nations, uh, there's the opportunity to save on the order of 3 million lives every year just by getting this eVTOL technology out across the globe in this first response capacity. So that is the founding mission of JumpAero, is to try to leverage eVTOL technology to get out and save lives. To do that, we've developed a specific aircraft that meets the requirements of first responders and the need to fly very quickly, deploy quickly, fly quickly, and land close to the emergency with life-saving equipment. So this is the JA-1 Pulse eVTOL aircraft. Uh, it is different from basically any other eVTOL that you'll see out there for a variety of reasons. One, you notice it's a standing tail sitter vehicle, so it doesn't have any tilting pods. The whole aircraft tilts over to fly very, very quickly. It has a very low frontal area, enabling high dash speeds, while at the same time not adding the complexity of tilting pods and things of that nature. The vehicle is designed to fly at speeds up to 250 knots, so significantly faster than eVTOLs that are optimized for air taxi missions. It turns out if you want to optimize a vehicle for an air taxi mission, you actually want to fly a little bit slower to conserve energy, reduce your power demand. In this application, because every minute is so critical, it makes sense to invest in a faster eVTOL aircraft. And so we are right up against the speed limit under 10,000 feet, right at 250 knots, which it turns out is also the maximum speed that is allowed under the newly published Modernization of Special Airworthiness Certificates, the Mosaic light sport aircraft rulemaking. So that rule just went live last week. It's incredibly exciting news. And JumpAero's JA1 Pulse eVTOL is designed to be fully Mosaic compliant. So in the United States, will be classified as a light sport aircraft. What that means is that we will meet international industry consensus standards, ASTM standards that the FAA accepts as being reasonable means of compliance to the new Federal Aviation Regulation Part 22. And those standards are being written by the ASTM committees, Committee F-37 in particular, of which JumpAero is a member. And we are very active in helping form those standards that are based off of the standards that the FAA is already accepting for certified eVTOL aircraft. So it's a robust framework. It doesn't reduce the requirements, the engineering requirements on these aircraft, but it does provide a compliance pathway that is more akin to light sport aircraft as opposed to traditional, or what we're calling traditional now, 2117B special certification project, or special type certification project. So under this new construct, the JA1 Pulse will not have a type certificate per se. It will get an airworthiness certificate that is an SLSA airworthiness certificate, akin to other special light sport aircraft that are in the field today. So why does this speed matter so much? Well, it turns out when you look at this particular use case, the economics of the business model are driven by how many people can you cover in the time critical 8-minute response window with one aircraft and a team of two people on duty. And that drives you to a dash optimized design. With the JA1 Pulse, our 250 knot dash speed enables us to cover about 3,000 square miles with one aircraft and a two-person team. And that 3,000 square mile coverage area can afford you a very low average population density to have an economically viable operation. So it's a big, big difference. So if you try to take an aircraft that is not specifically designed for this mission, not specifically designed for the high dash speed, much slower speed, your radius is much smaller, and as a consequence, the number of people that you can cover with one aircraft is much smaller. So this vehicle is really the only vehicle that was designed from the ground up for this particular mission, optimizing for this. How many people can you get to in 8 minutes? Key figure of merit. So we went out and we surveyed over 500 rural Americans. And turns out if you live in a rural community, you know that it's going to take a long time to get help if you need it, if you call for help. And so we asked them what they would be willing to pay on top of what the taxes that they already pay today to have this new type of service available. And it turns out, there's about 21% that are not interested, but a full 79% of those surveyed are willing to pay something extra. and 33% are willing to pay more than $2 a day. 55% are willing to pay more than $1 a day. So what that represents in that $1 to $2 a day is a $13 billion a year greenfield market opportunity for a subscription service to get to get this technology out there as quickly as possible. Uh, and that's what you need is you need the economic motivator to get it out there to prove that this can be a life-saving technology and get it out as fast as possible. In other words, we leverage the capitalistic forces to get that technology out there because there's money to be made. And then once people see that, oh yeah, this really works, then it's very likely that, since we've got 79% of the population that are willing to pay something for it, that we will be able to, in the long run, this will be a taxpayer subsidized service that will just be available to everyone. But in the near term, you've got a great motivator because there's tremendous money to be made in the space. So our launch customer is Falk. This is one of the largest global emergency response companies in the world. They operate out of 24 countries, including the United States. They do over 9 million EMS operations every year. And they've already reserved a number of aircraft and plan on deploying them in targeted locations around the world, starting in the United States. Um, Beyond that, we have MOUs in place at both the state level, the county level, and with tribal governments to deploy this technology in trial operations and show, we'll learn together what the actual real world operating costs of the aircraft are. And we plan on just publishing that information freely so that everybody can make informed decisions about how to best deploy the technology. So where are we today? We've been flying subscale drones for the past 5 years. We now are flying what we call dynamically scaled models, so real true subscale aircraft of our full-scale aircraft that are flown on the same flight computer as will be flown on the full-scale aircraft. And our full-scale prototype, our first full-scale prototype is under construction, partially subsidized by an Air Force contract. That full-scale aircraft, we have all the parts for the inner pods, the outer pods built. We have all the tooling made for the upper wing. The lower wing tooling is under construction, and the fuselage tooling is going to start within the next couple months here. So it's a very exciting time. By this time next year, we expect to have a full-scale prototype starting to get ready for its first bunny hop. So extremely exciting time at JumpAero. And this year, we actually already completed our first dynamically scaled transition of our subscale aircraft using the same flight control laws that we'll be using on the first full-scale aircraft. We're targeting a first flight of that full-scale proof of concept next year, and then hopefully moving into piloted flights in the 2027 timeframe, with the goal of deploying this aircraft in these trial operations as soon as possible in 2028, and ideally saving our first life around that time. So that's our goal at JumpAero, is to get to our first life saved milestone as quickly as possible, and then expand production and get this product all around the world as quickly as we can to start saving lives. So with that, I'll wrap up my presentation and really appreciate your time and your interest, and the Advanced Air Mobility Institute here for providing a forum from which to share our message about the opportunity to leverage eVTOL technology to help save lives all around the world. Thank you.
Thanks, Carl, for that.